All right, cool. Great. Thank you guys for joining us for another episode of the Cowboy Shot. My name is Dario.
I'm Sally, and we have a special guest with us, Alison Rich. Can I introduce you? Now we have cards. We're like super prepared, so ready. Okay. Alison Rich, writer, director, actress. You worked on a number of things, but you've also directed as well as acted in your own shorts. The one we're watching today is called Pathological, which premiered in Sundance, but you've also had a number of other shorts that have premiered in like huge festivals, South by Southwest being one of them. You've written on The Goldbergs, Drug History, Two Broke Girls, SNL, Billy on the Street. Is that all? I got it all?
Well,
There's plenty more.
some of those I acted on, I didn't write on, but you know, you get the general idea. Yeah.
See, I told you this is a good idea.
This is great. This
Yeah.
is great.
Usually we're like off the top of the dome, and
No,
you've done this, and
That's
Yeah.
too much pressure.
It's a lot. Yeah. So tell us, Allison, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you come from, and how you
Yeah.
got into filmmaking.
Sure. Well, so I'm from Long Island originally.
Nice.
And I grew up a total theater kid. You know, the initial dream was like to be on Broadway. And so starting around the age of 9, I like discovered this love of theater. But then when I got to college, I sort of shifted my focus from theater to comedy, you know, because I was always a performer, but I wasn't like the best singer, and I certainly wasn't a dancer or anything, but I could get cast in these fun comedic side roles. So then summers between college, I started taking classes at the Upright Citizens Brigade Theater in New York, like really getting into the sketch and improv scene. And that was fun. And my first year out of college, I just moved home to Long Island and lived with my parents and would go into New York City all the time. And the first year I was still giving theater a go. I would like show up to cattle call musical theater auditions. But then pretty quickly I was like, I really don't feel like that's going to go anywhere. And simultaneously I was really getting into the UCB scene in New York. And that really felt like, you know, I'm getting to perform, but people are like making their own thing. Theater, you can't really like make your own little Broadway show. You know, just the costs that go into that. Or if you like book a show, it's like, wow, you booked 3 weeks in Connecticut and you're making $300. Whereas like, you know, I came up at the time of like Alana Glazer and Abby Jacobson. So you're seeing people make like little web content and suddenly it's a TV show. So that really, I feel very lucky that I found that path and it just kind of grew from there. I met collaborators, started to make like web series and things like that.
Did that make you move to LA thinking that there was bigger opportunities in the film industry?
Not quite. I mean, LA was always something that was in my sights, but I'd barely ever, I maybe went there once as a kid because we were visiting like a second cousin. So I really didn't feel like I had a network there or anything. But a couple years into being in New York, I got this opportunity to do this thing called the CBS Diversity Showcase, which is a program that I think has had mixed like response.
Right.
You know, like the people who ran it. I mean, I think a lot of these showcases might have good intentions, but either are handled poorly or overpromise or whatever. But basically, that was a program that CBS was doing where they were trying to uplift, like essentially just like not white dudes as comedic performers. And so if you did that program, it was like right before pilot season. So the idea was that, you know, you do this big showcase for the industry and then you go into pilot season and you're getting a lot more opportunities. So some people at CBS, I guess, had seen some like sketch video stuff I had done, and then they had me audition. And so I auditioned, you know, it was like a couple minutes of characters and stuff. And they were like, oh, and they also, this is so like, I don't know how this sounds, but they were like, are you at all anything and diverse? Or I was like, I was like, I'm a quarter Armenian, and they were like, good enough. And I was like,
check.
I was like, yikes. But then when I got there was a guy who looked like just the whitest white dude.
Right,
like his name was Ross, and he was a 16th Cherokee. And you're like, okay, I'm not the worst offender.
Okay.
But I don't know how that ages, you know? If someone wants to come for me, that's probably a good place to point.
It's out there now.
It's out there. Now you know.
Armenians are going to get enraged.
Yeah. But so that brought me out to LA, which was nice because it was like, it wasn't quite fully a job. You know, you're not being paid for it, but it was structure. It was immediate community.
I hope they paid you.
No.
Ooh, so you moved out here, no pay?
Right.
They paid for your flight.
No.
Or your housing?
No.
Not even a Spirit ticket?
Nothing.
Not even
You know,
a Spirit ticket?
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know how to feel about it now, basically, because the bulk of the people that were there were LA natives.
Okay.
But I moved with like two buddies from New York who also got it, who you might know. They're big in the comedy scene, Nicole Byer and John Milheiser. And we were actually all on the same UCB sketch team in New York at the time. I think a lot of people were like being reached out to about auditioning for this thing. So the three of us got it. And, you know, like Kate McKinnon had done it a couple years before. So my agent was like, if you can do it, do it. And at the time, to make money, I was tutoring. And I actually was starting to do my first like Skype tutoring and online tutoring. So I was like, well, this technically doesn't mean I have to like lose my job. And I pretty quickly was able to find tutoring work out here. So it was pretty lucky that I could just continue my side hustle in LA. And then, gosh, like it ended up being that the three of us moved into a 2-bedroom and I slept on the couch.
No. Wait,
Yeah.
did you split it 3 ways?
I paid the lease, but I still
Okay,
paid.
good.
I think I was paying $500 a month.
That's not bad.
You know, but like for a couch, and it was supposed to be like a couple months. It was 8 months that I was on the couch, but because I think I had like $9,000 in my bank account when I moved. You know,
But
this
the
is what
things
you do when you're young,
You have to.
24,
Yeah.
25.
Yeah.
And I'm like, good job, past Allison, worth it to just because when I came out, I was like, oh man, there really is so much more work out here compared to New York.
Really?
Yeah, I kind of felt like, because I've since had many New York friends move out, but maybe I was in New York for about 2-3 years. They were there 5, 6, 10. And I'm kind of like, well, if I was ultimately going to end up here, I'm glad I had to rip the Band-Aid off sooner than later.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, you know that like, 25 sleeping on a couch, running out of, you know, your
moving to a
measly
city you don't
saving.
know.
Yeah. My friend told me he's from New York and he just moved out here, and he said he would have done it a lot earlier, but he said if once you leave New York, you can't go back.
What? Why is that?
Because I don't know. I don't remember who he was my friend, but I guess I don't remember.
Unless you're going back for some job where you're making good money. But even I then went back to New York because I got hired to write for SNL.
Nice.
And that was funny because, you know, that's a huge job to get. The apartment I moved into was a basement apartment, and I still needed to have a roommate because you're not making much money, like at least starting out writing on that show. And so, yeah, I think when you live in New York, you either have to be like 22 with no standard of living or a millionaire.
I see. There's no in between.
That's true.
Wait, what's a basement apartment? Is it like in Parasite?
A garden apartment, you know, is sometimes
Yeah.
the nice.
It's like walking down. You walk down. It's like I don't
like the street level, and then you walk a couple steps down.
Yes,
Yeah.
because
see.
so many, like, it's like to get into the apartment, you're walking up some steps.
Yeah.
And then you walk past the mailboxes, and then like wherever the stairwell or elevator is, most people are walking up. You can walk down, and
You
you're
walk
like,
down.
I walk down, like past the dumpsters. My dad, when he came to see it, he was like, "You live in a rape dungeon." You know, like the vibe is
Thanks,
not.
Dad.
Yeah, and like I had windows, but it's like out to like an alley.
Would you wait until people passed for you to start going downstairs? Or you're like, you know what?
I
I'm
totally live here.
I'm fully locked in.
Yeah, I think most people like took the elevator, so they didn't even. There wasn't a lot of like, I'm going down, you're going up.
Yeah.
But You know?
So you make the move to LA and everything.
Yeah.
And how did that go? That CBS competition or program?
Showcase thing.
Yeah.
It was, at the time, I had all sorts of mixed feelings about it. In retrospect, I'm like, hey, it got me out here and I made some great friends. It was a very tone deaf program in that, I think it's like a lot of, and I'm a white woman, like who am I to speak to some of this stuff? But you had these two older executives running it who were very tone deaf. And for instance, like my friend Nicole Byer, was in it, and she's a Black woman, and every sketch, because basically it's like a sketch showcase where it's like an hour long and they have like 20 performers, and as a performer maybe you're in 2-3 sketches or something like that that's supposed to like show you off. And everything that they put Nicole in was like loud lady, sassy, and you're like, yeah. And I think, this was whatever, like 2012, 2013, where that's where we were culturally, where it's like, oh, a Black woman, she has to be sassy and loud,
Right.
She's
got to be the best friend. The side
or
character.
like one of my other friends is a gay man. It's all like, yes, and they are very coarsely being like, look, this industry is going to see you as only one type, so really play your type. And there was like a dark honesty to that, but I think thankfully the industry has grown where it's like we don't just see people in those types.
There's nuances.
Totally.
Yeah. What's funny is that you're saying that you moved out to LA, and earlier before we started the podcast you said that we had switched because we originally lived in WeHo. You currently, or like in the West Side.
Yeah.
And then now you want to move to South Pass. We're switched. What I'm trying to say is we want to move to New York.
We're thinking about moving to New York as an option, or just like have like a,
and we were in Long Island.
Stay. Yeah.
Not
we were
too long
Long
ago.
Island. We had a wedding, a friend's wedding in the Hamptons, the Southamptons.
Fancy.
Bougie.
It was very fancy, black tie
Ooh.
and everything. I felt so out of place. That's for a friend,
Wait, tell me about your thoughts of moving to New York.
I think we just like, so when
The
we went
energy
to
of it.
the atmosphere, the energy that's there. Here in LA, it's like you're at your house, then you get into your like iron coffin to go into another place. You never really walk. It's not really walking.
Totally. Yep.
Like area or city.
Yeah.
You don't see people here.
You don't see that much.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean,
it's a bit isolated.
it felt a little bit more lively in New York. Yeah.
The thing, somebody, like, we were eating at this one restaurant, which is at a corner street, and then there was just this random
In New York
guy
or LA?
in Brooklyn.
York.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there's this random guy with a sketchbook just writing in his little notebook, just standing there in the corner, just writing it away in his notebook. And we're like, this doesn't happen in LA.
And if it does, I don't see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
But so you get on this showcase and everything. When did you decide I want to make film? I want to be a director. I want to write stuff. Was it because as an actor you weren't getting parts and you said I can make parts for myself that can showcase my talent? What was that turning point?
It was a slow, like, over time expansion out from purely focusing on acting. Getting involved in the comedy scene and specifically like a theater like UCB, that, got me into writing. The first way it happened was, I'd been at the New York theater, whatever, like a year or something, and auditions came around for the sketch teams. And I had taken the sketch writing classes sort of just because I was like so hungry to be doing anything. I wasn't particularly drawn to sketch writing, but when I auditioned for the team, you could audition to act and you could also submit a packet to write. And I ended up getting both, which was really, and I wasn't even going to apply to write, but my dad, who's not in this business at all, but is somewhat, he just has a savviness about him. And he was like, you should also apply for the writing. And so I got both. And then I was a little like, oh shit, like I have to.
You have to pick?
No, I got to do both.
Oh,
they
okay.
allowed you, like I was put on one team in both capacities. Yeah. And so it was great because every month we're putting on a full new sketch show. And so it just forced me to be like, I have to write. Right. And then, so that gave me some confidence writing. And certainly, I was like, okay, now I can write stuff for myself. And then directing was sort of a similar thing where because, you know, I started like making web series and videos, but I would have someone else direct them. And then in 2017, I was like, I want to direct something just so I understand better what it is, because I've always had a desire to make my own thing. And I'm like, well, one day if I'm creating my own show, I want to be able to hire a director. So I need to have directed to understand that. And then I made this web series, and it was funny. It was going to be this 10-part like mockumentary. And this guy that I knew who had directed a different web series I did, I was like, can you direct 9 of the episodes and I'll direct 1? And it's so funny in retrospect that I was like asking him permission when it was my own thing. And he was like, yeah, that's fine. But then 2 weeks before we were supposed to shoot, he broke up with his girlfriend of 8 years. Oh, wow. And he texted me being like, I've gone through a massive breakup. I can't direct this. You do it. Like you can. Because he knew me, and he knew better than I knew at the time that I, you know, would be capable. So then doing that, I was like, oh, I know I have a lot to learn, but I can do this too. And then, yeah, it was, then I like made the short that went to South by, and that sort of, even though I wasn't fully happy with how it turned out, it really made me be like, this is part of the equation too now. It's not just learn about directing so you can hire someone else. I was like, no, there's a lot more I want to learn so I can execute what's in my brain better. But it is now better for me to fumble through directing than hire someone else who might be really good, but they don't have the same artistic vision as me.
Right.
So
it's
that's
hard to like tell someone like, I want it like this.
Yeah, and it's
like
articulate what you're.
Then you're not really hiring a director if you or you're like, hey, can you do my vision?
Right.
It's like, well, maybe then you direct
the director.
it.
Yeah. Wait, can I ask you more questions about those early days?
Yeah.
So like the web series, for instance, where was it on? Was it like a YouTube thing?
So that first web series, so the first thing I made really was a YouTube web series with a friend of mine, Andrew Law, who's now out in LA and is a big comedy writer. We like met in a UCB class. And so we made a web series that we just put on YouTube. And it was like 7 episodes. And we like did a Kickstarter for it.
I see.
And then years later, that was like whatever, 2012. 2017 is when I started directing, and so that was just another YouTube web series. And it was funny because I sort of saw between 2012 and 2017, it felt like YouTube and Funny or Die and College Humor like died. Because in 2012 it felt like a good time to be, you know, I knew so many people who had like viral videos on YouTube. And then when I made this thing in 2017, Instagram, Vine, all that stuff was really on the come up.
Shorter
and you're
form,
like, oh, I'm glad I did this, but it's not like it, you know, it has a couple thousand views. And it's funny because the next thing I want to make before, like, I obviously want to like get a feature made, but you don't know if that's going to be tomorrow or in 5 years or whatever. So I'm like, I want to keep making stuff. And I do just want to make another fucking web series with friends. Yeah. And it seems like YouTube is kind of coming back.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I don't know why.
It's because they're pushing YouTube TV. So YouTube right now is competing not with other social media platforms, but with Netflix.
Oh, streamers, yeah.
Because didn't they have a go at trying to do TV like with YouTube Red?
They did. I think they did, yeah. But now I guess when they got the contract with NFL, I guess people after watching a game stay on YouTube and maybe watch other stuff on it. And then they're looking for more maybe story.
But right now, they're looking for content creators that do like series, like episodes that people can just go next on the TV. And now instead of flipping over to Netflix, you're just staying on YouTube.
I love that. I'm very glad to hear that.
Maybe
it might be the time.
it might be
but
the
what's
time.
funny is like, so I've made these 3 sort of sizable shorts at this point, and I've put them all on Leto, you know, which is one of the few YouTube channels that I know of that features short films. And I've never had a big social media following, so it made sense to be like, well, they have a built-in audience. My first 2 shorts, they have like, one has like 600,000 views, the other has like 800,000. My newest one from this year has like 32,000. And I don't care, but I was like, to me, I was like, is YouTube dead or something?
Right.
But maybe it's just in a transition place.
I don't know. Everybody's still trying to figure out with short form and just with TikToks and all that
That's
stuff.
true.
I don't know if you know about this phenomenon that's happening is vertical filmmaking.
Oh, yeah. Do you know that?
Yes, I actually this summer got to direct a vertical film. It's a very funny experience.
Oh, it's so quick.
Because it was like, so there is a site where people can self-publish romance novels. And then the romance novels that are the most popular get adapted into vertical films, like
Really?
Lifetime films.
I didn't know about
But
that.
the turnaround and the budget is so quick that it
Crazy.
is a little janky. But it was a great, it was a 6-day shoot and we shot like 55 pages in 6 days.
Yeah.
And I learned so much, but yeah, you're turning an Alexa on its side. And I certainly, I'm not like, and I knocked it out of the park. I'm like, I made something passable, but it was at least encouraging because I felt like, oh man, I got into directing after like College Humor and Funny or Die died, because I feel like the generation before me got to get a lot of reps in of like,
Right.
but it seems like vertical is a new frontier.
Yeah, and
It
there's
is, yeah.
so many apps doing it now, and even more apps coming out. And I forgot the big major player, the app, what it's called, but
Is it Short Reel or
I
something
was,
like that?
I think it is.
Yeah.
I was reading an article, and they had planned that, oh, we're gonna make a new, not episode, but like a whole thing every day.
Season or series or?
Yeah, a whole different series every single day
Oh
in
my
2025.
God.
So
That
they're
is
not going
psycho.
away.
Yeah.
And
But that's the only thing
yeah.
keeping very like small indie filmmakers like gaffers, grips,
Yeah,
or
and-
production
yeah.
designers
Paid.
like get
Yeah.
paid.
Yeah,
because
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, me and Sally work as production designers. We're also writers and
Oh,
directors.
cool.
But
that's
production
amazing,
designers
yeah.
what pays for all this,
I love it.
right? And so we've worked on a couple of verticals, and it's a love-hate relationship. Like
Yes.
you're giving me money, I love
Right.
you. I hate you because you're making me do this.
Yes.
Sort of type of deal. And so, yeah, I think verticals have a place.
Yeah.
Can they expand it? Can they make it better? Can they make it
yeah,
more like
can they make it more cinematic? Can the stories be a little bit better?
Can the stories better?
Can the women stop
Yeah.
getting abused?
100%. Oh my
Why?
God. When I like, because they sent me the script and I gave a million notes, but I was like, the whole thrust of the one that I was doing was like, this girl's parents died in a mysterious accident and she lives in this town and she now lives with her cop uncle, and there's like a biker gang that
Oh no.
yeah, that like terrorizes the town, and of course she falls in love with the biker prince.
Yeah.
But he's like so terrible to her, and I was like giving notes being like, hey, can't he just like be a nice guy?
Right.
And they were like, this female executive was like, our audience really likes that.
Yeah.
And I was
Apparently
like,
it's really big in China, like that kind of relationship. And I think because a lot of them are being funded by Chinese production companies, they're trying to transition that same idea in America.
wow.
But I mean, if it's paying, somebody's into it,
I know,
a lot of
it's
people are
hard.
into it.
It's hard. Yeah, it's really hard to like, because even like I've started to get some work directing commercials, and I directed my first one recently, and I thought the product was one thing, but then it also included this other thing that was like kind of a appetite suppressant, like an Ozempic-esque thing. And I was like, ooh, if I had been aware, like I don't love that. But it's also like, I gotta get in the door. So it can feel like I'll have morals once I'm at a certain point in my career, which is dark. And obviously there's like a limit, but similar with the...
Those prescription ads have a lot of big bucks.
Yeah.
Those are like the most expensive ads you see on like TV. Like the production value behind those things. Like the
Is it
they're on a beach.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. There's
They're
a
on
million
Hawaii trip.
locations.
Like,
Yeah.
it's so crazy. But I guess we could go into your film Pathological.
What a transition.
Yeah. From that to this. So tell us a little bit of Pathological.
Yeah.
Where did the idea come from? When did you start working on it? And we'll start that.
I find that ideas come to me in a variety of ways, and you'd love to just be always walking down the street and like an idea just like strikes you. And that's happened here and there, but it doesn't happen reliably. So this was truly like, I was like, I want to make another thing. I want it to be a proof of concept for a feature. But what do I do? And so I just had a couple months of grinding, sitting at my computer. And it was funny because January of whatever, maybe 2023, I was like, I need to think of this idea now because I want to make it by May or June so that I knew, because I'd had one short in Sundance by that point. And I was like, well, I want to be able to apply again. And that application's August. So I was like, I need the idea now.
Yeah.
And it actually came like a couple days later. I'd been sort of circling the area of like, certain, like an earlier version, like idea was like something about having to do with like a pathological liar and a kleptomaniac and a pyromaniac. And then just one day it clicked. And part of the inspiration was I read a New York Times article about a guy who was a pathological liar who like, he wasn't like a sociopath, like, you know, evil doer. And in the article, part of it was these mental health professionals were weighing in, trying to present the thing as like a compulsion, like OCD, being like, this is a mental illness. And I don't know whether I believe that or not. But basically this guy, had just ruined his life with this compulsive lying. And, you know, they were explaining that like a lot of a certain breed of pathological liars out of a place of like, the real me isn't interesting enough, which, you know, I think is quite relatable. And then, but the other thing was that the lies were like very funny. They're just so like,
Wait, what's an example?
like he had lied to his wife that he was having an affair with Kourtney Kardashian when he like wasn't even having an affair. So it's like, like it's not, these aren't like criminal masterminds that are lying because they're like, I'm gonna achieve this ends. It's like that lie's actually damaging to your relationship.
Also an interesting Kardashian to choose,
right? And it's just so, it's like, it's so outlandish that of course it's not true. And it's like, it did make it seem like, oh, this is a compulsion. This isn't like a thoughtful, you know, manipulator. Or like the guy had lied that he was like climbing Mount Everest when he was really just like in Canada. And it was so over the top. So I thought like, oh, maybe I could, you know, explore the relatable idea of like not feeling like who you are enough, but in the fun, high concept setting of like a pathological liar. And so, you know, one day on a flight, I had the idea of like, oh my gosh, what if it's about a pathological liar who wakes up one day and her lies have become true? And like it came to me in January, and I take like 3-ish months to get a script where I want it to be for a short. And so then originally we were trying to shoot it in May or June, but the actress that I wanted couldn't shoot till like the first weekend in July. So that's how that happened. And yeah.
Cool. Let's take a look at it then.
Yes, we can keep talking over it.
So Joe and I are buying a place together, and it's 1,000% going to destroy our relationship. Like, first of all,
So was this filmed in New York or LA?
LA.
LA.
Yes.
Happy Monday! What up? What are we talking about? What's the gas, gang?
How much did this cost?
The whole short.
The whole short.
You know, I don't I'd have to like look to, but I think it was in the realm of 80K.
I relate big time.
I think you're the most
We're buying
on our podcast.
Really?
80K?
Yeah.
Short, yeah.
I got 40K outside, and then I spent 40K.
Plus,
Wow. Holy snap.
Yeah, I'm sorry to like. It's I want to be honest because I know it's like everyone's trying it, but I'm like, look, and you know, the more experienced I become, the more it's like you don't necessarily need to spend money in the places that I did, but that is the truth. I don't want to be like, yeah, I did this for $15. You know,
The dream.
So how did you? So you got 40K. You raised that. How is that?
I did. So
accomplished?
basically, I from my previous short got representation with this commercial company called Imposter. So when I went to make this, I was like, hey, do you guys want to help in some way? And they ultimately gave me 20K.
Wow, nice.
Which was nice. That does happen sometimes. If you get like commercial representation, they will help you make a short. It's not a given, but I've known a couple people where that's happened.
I need to get.
And then 10 of it for this short and my previous short, my manager gave to me.
Wow.
He's like an awesome dude, Peter Principato, who's been in the comedy scene for forever and like produced for like Key and Peele and all, like is a, and so he just
Shout out.
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
So this location.
So the commercial company, they got it for me for free.
Let's go.
Yes.
Locations are like the biggest cost.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So this one, that's awesome.
Did you have to do much to it in terms of production design?
No, it was really that I had decided I was going to have different color phases for the. So it was really about, okay, the first part of the film is cool, gray, drab, and then the middle is bright and saturated, and then when things turn bad, it gets red and hot. So it was like swapping out some props to support that.
These lies that you're saying right now,
Yeah.
were these improvised or did you write them?
Oh, I like scripted it hardcore, especially given the the fact that I pay all the lies off, like they,
Yeah.
But yeah, I've always been someone who like tightly scripts what I shoot.
Because that would be so crazy if you were improvising and then the production designer and everybody has to kind of like,
Oh yeah.
what'd she say?
No.
Fragrance of Adriana Grande.
Yeah.
You have to be the most interesting lady I think I've ever met.
Yeah. So
mean,
this
normally
is
I find these
Sassafras
updates
in
to be
Hollywood. It used to be like a totally active bar, and the restaurant group that owns it owns like 11 restaurants in LA, but Sassafras I think didn't survive the pandemic, so they were just renting it out as a location. And I found it on like, or maybe one of my producers found it just either on like Gigster or Peerspace, one of those places.
Yeah.
And we negotiated. I think that location was like 2,800 or something, and we negotiated them down a bit.
How many days of shooting were you there for?
We were just there for one full day.
28,000 for one day?
2,800.
Oh, okay.
1,000. Oh my God, no. 2,800.
That's like half the budget.
Or maybe it was like 2,000. I know it was like over 2,000, but under 3,000.
Okay.
But yeah.
Okay, wait. The pink barf.
Uh-huh.
What is that made out of? And how'd you get it so pink?
Oh,
purple, yeah.
Well, we had this great production designer, Ashley Cron. She made the barf out of like oatmeal and something, and then put like food coloring in it. And then in post, like we had it, the color, yeah.
These actors are all great. How did you find them? Like, did you use backstage or?
Or any of their friends?
Mostly it was, I didn't use a casting director because I feel pretty tapped into the comedy scene. I just cast it myself. So the girl who plays Louisa, she's the wife of a guy I went to college with, and she's a very successful actress who works a lot, and I just emailed her. And initially she said no because she was in Canada shooting something and pregnant. And she's actually 7 months pregnant in this thing.
No way.
I can point out certain shots where you can see it now that I've told you, but she has such a slight frame that you would like never know.
never
But like
Ever.
we like placed bags over her, or like And then this guy, I actually didn't know his name is Luke Cook. He's super funny. And my producer Ingrid knew of him and was like, had maybe worked with him once or twice, and so she recommended him. And I just met with him over Zoom and had him read it, and I was like, oh, he's perfect.
Yeah.
So.
Do you know Dutch?
No. And you know what's funny? You can see in some of the YouTube comments, people being like, that Dutch is really bad, or like, that's not even Dutch. A friend I went to college with speaks some Dutch, and so she helped me with it. And I think originally I had put that it was Danish, but then this friend read the script and she was like, well, I speak Dutch. Why don't you make it Dutch? I was like, sure. Yeah.
So awesome.
Is that VFX, the phone? It's like a green screen?
Yes. Yep. Yeah.
So how long was like pre-production?
Let's see. It was about 3 months, but the first month it's pretty. It's like once a week I'm meeting with my producers on a Zoom, and the month leading up is pretty like
ramped up.
Yeah.
And your post-production, how long is it? Because it has like a lot of very cool edits and everything. Like
Oh,
that.
thanks. Well, the edit, I love the edit process. And for both of my Sundance shorts, I essentially like move in with my editor. Like as soon as he like does an assembly or a rough cut, and then I like for 6 weeks I'm just coming over to his apartment every day, and he is the best. His name's Taylor Giannotis, and if you ever need an editor, he's your guy. He made this amazing film Greener Grass, that like a full feature film that was at Sundance, and he's so talented and he is so great to work with.
We have to get his contact.
Yes, he's great.
And the fact that he lives in LA, I think I love when people live nearby, so then I can do exactly that. I can go
love
over.
this prop right here. The pamphlet.
Yes.
For Wig Warriors.
Yes.
That's hilarious.
Oh, and that was funny because the day that we were putting that, like, we did a photo shoot, and we did a photo shoot to get like the photos for the pamphlet, and that day during the photo shoot, this was 2 weeks before we were supposed to start shooting. I get a call from my DP, and she had to drop out because she booked a feature, and I had done my previous short with her and felt very codependent on her, and so 2 weeks before we're supposed to shoot, she drops out, and so meanwhile I'm supposed to be doing this photo shoot and like looking all smiley, and I just half the photos I'm like dead in the eyes, you know.
So then you had to like last minute find someone else.
And I found an amazing guy his name's Andy Radzewski, and he shot like Pen 15. He shoots Our Flag Means Death. And he just shot a movie with Paul Rudd and Tim Robinson. Like he is.
Nice. Okay.
And I had just met him years before, and I had reached out to him about my previous short, and he wasn't available, but he saw it and liked it a lot. And so he just did me a solid and like hopped on a week and a half before. And like this was very small potatoes for what part of the challenge for him was being like, well, I'm used to dealing with like a full TV show or feature film's camera package. How do I slim it down?
Right.
But he did it. So you see, she's pregnant. Like if you look, you can catch it in certain spots.
Sometimes I don't even believe it. But
Your hair looks so good here.
Oh, thank you. We had a great HMU lady Brielle. So see, can you sort of see?
like the back
and we have like the
That's so hilarious.
I love watching extras and stuff like this.
Yes. Oh, and if you see back there, the guy extra ends up being the stalker later. No one would ever catch that. And if I were to shoot this again, I would feature him more prominently so you can pick up on that. But
he does look over quite a bit. Yeah.
I thought he was a cop. That's why.
Yeah, the
because of that
patch.
jacket.
Yes.
Yeah. He looks like a
Yeah,
secret
I don't
guard.
think anyone recognized that, but yeah.
So how long was production? Was it
4 days.
4 days?
Yeah.
Okay, nice.
I love the colors in this shot.
Oh, thanks.
All the greens in there too.
Did you make kind of like a lookbook or prepare stuff for your crew to understand what kind of
Very much so.
any references or inspiration that you try to tell them, hey, this is something that I kind of want to emulate?
Yeah, I mean, I can't say that there was like a particular. Am I lying? I'm trying to remember. It's not that there was like one movie or filmmaker. It was more that early on I cracked this thing of, okay, I want the pre-lie world to obviously feel like sad, and then the post-lie world over the top, saturated, specifically in regard to things that represent her lies. And then when things start to go bad, I was like, I want things to get like red and hot and sweaty.
Okay, so then their stalker leaves in the back. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and this is the moment where things turn. Like the camera goes to the other side of me, and this is like my favorite shot in the whole thing.
Yeah.
You can really see the anamorphic lens, and like the world
Red,
closes
yeah.
in.
Yeah.
I love when it does that spotlight, the Broadway
Yes.
spotlight.
Yeah, the next scene after this, I think it's the alley scene.
Yeah.
Bump into the stalker.
Yes.
The red and the green is very visible. It's
Yes.
very- yeah.
And was the color purple a choice that you had made, like to
I
become the
decided
throw up?
that would just be like would sort of represent magic, and she would like wear a purple suit, and
Yeah, there he is. Yeah.
and so they.
Now that you pointed it out, it's like now I'll always see this.
I'm glad. I'm glad. And this was, I loved all this stalker stuff because I felt like I had grown enough as a filmmaker to use the shots comedically. You know, like I think a lot of comedy people who get into filmmaking, they're just like, well, the lines I wrote are funny, but how do you make the camera be funny too? And this visual gag of him like, you know, advancing in space and that, you know, him being taller than me and like being cut out of the frame. So I was like proud of that. And I'm like working on a feature version of it now. And it's funny, like the aspect ratio is obviously changed in the anamorphic. So it's way more horizontal. But I think in the feature, I might keep it 16:9 because I feel like it made some of the visual comedy a little harder, it being so horizontal.
I see. That is true. When you watch a lot of comedies, it is like the full screen.
Yeah.
The music really uplifts it a lot and helps with the comedy and just also her panic. How'd you find your composer?
Great guy, Rene Bossio.
Shout out.
Yes, Rene, look him up. He's fantastic. We met at the previous Sundance. Well, that Sundance actually was all virtual, sadly, because of the pandemic. But so he was also in LA and just reached out to me. He had seen my other film. And so we just... so this is like some of the visual comedy where it's like... I always wanted Tristan to kind of like pop up surprisingly in frame, which I think works okay, but I think maybe if the aspect ratio was different, it would work better. But anyway, Renee reached out to me after my first short and we kept in touch, and I just, with the new film, reached out to him and these other composers, and because I find the music part of it to be the hardest.
Yeah.
And so like that right there, I think that would have worked better if the you know.
I see.
But anyway, I paid him to make a little demo, and he did a great job. And
How did you communicate to him? This is type of like the music I want.
Yeah, I mean, I ended up doing a super detailed temp score, piecing together with like, you know, real like score from everything from like a Tim Burton movie or whatever. And that was good and bad in that I think it was very clear the vibe that I wanted. But then, you know, I got a little too married to the temp score. And Renee said to me, he's like, in the future, you don't need to go so detailed because it's so much work, and then it does like constrict you a little bit But he, you know, I think I'm probably not the easiest for composers to work with, but he made it work, and it ultimately ended up being very similar to my process with my editor, where I ended up going to his studio and just like sitting with him, and being like, that sound, no, more of that sound, and he was great. Yeah.
But that process of you sitting with your editor, your composer, that's how you become a better director.
Yeah.
Because you're communicating like, this is how I want it, this is how it should be.
Yes.
And your communication skills with like this team and everybody will just always improve and improve.
Yeah, and you know, I aspire to get to a place where I'm skilled enough in my communication and my knowledge of the tools to say what I want, but leave the collaborator room to do their thing.
I see,
You know, and I think I think with my editor, and maybe he would tell you something different, he's still able to put his own ideas on it. Whereas the composer at this point, because I'm still learning, I think I probably feel a little too prescriptive for him of like, it should be, you know,
like
but
exactly
it'll
like
come
this.
with
The
time.
bell needs to be right here. Ding.
Yes, exactly. So yeah.
The movie just finished, but we kind of want to like let our audience know like your writing process.
Sure.
I know you said you came up with the idea while you were on a plane about a pathological liar, and you read a New York Times article. But when did you start sitting at your desk and start like making a beat sheet?
Right.
I think with this one, I wrote out like a summary, and what was nice about this process was a filmmaker that I know, this woman, JJ Adler, she's a really successful director, has done a ton of commercial work. She wanted to make a new short. So we just started Zooming like once a week and talking about our idea. And then like I sent her my little synopsis, and she suggested ideas. She suggested some really great ideas. And then, a week or two later, I'm like sending her a really shitty draft and she's given feedback and stuff like that. So that was sort of getting through to a good first draft, was just like meeting with this other person who was also trying to make a short.
And how long did this take, the whole, up until your final draft?
I was tinkering with it till like the night before we were shooting, but I think I started writing it in January and was like getting prep going in like late March, early April.
I see.
So I give myself like 2-3 months. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Are you working while you're doing this? Or is this like full time writing? Since the pandemic, my work has been very freelance and sporadic. So I can't remember exactly what was going on at the time, but maybe the plane that I was on when I had the idea was I was flying back from New York, where I was doing this small part on this show, The Other Two. So it's like I would have little bits of work, but I was not working that much. So I had a lot of time to focus on this, but it's not something that was required necessarily full-time attention until maybe 2-3 weeks before. But I did just have the time because I was not very employed, So, yeah.
I guess we do the best writing when we're unemployed.
Hell yeah.
We don't have a job.
Yeah.
Or nothing to do.
Yeah. I mean, like 12 hours on set and then coming back and writing, I don't fucking think so.
Yeah.
So, this was released at Sundance. How was it taken by the audience? And
it was taken well.
That was good. Did anything come about? I mean, I assume that a lot of things came about after this. People kept coming with you for like commercials, like direct this for us. How's that like? How do you kind of like take that in and control it, and also like absorb it and say like, okay, I'm getting somewhere, I'm moving in the right direction?
Yeah, so in both of my experiences doing Sundance for these two different shorts, in the like 2 months after, I had like a bunch of generals, and you feel very like, oh my gosh, I'm Hollywood. It is all happening. And then, that slows down and you're like, but what actually came of it? Right. But some concrete things do, like the first, for my other short, I met with this company, Imposter, for commercial directing, and they now represent me. And it hasn't been like, and then I woke up the next day and had a million commercial jobs, but they were able to like get me a job directing a web series, and then with like a good budget, and then they've now really started to get me commercial work. And then when I went to make this, they gave me 20 grand to help, and they helped me get locations. So that was like a concrete thing that came. And then, so mostly right after Sundance for both, it's like you get a bunch of cool meetings, and they're sort of, like I had a meeting with like Lionsgate and Searchlight, and they're like, let us know when you have a full movie. Like, and so you're like, okay. And with this one, I've I'm like working on the draft of the movie script, so we haven't like sent it around yet. But I will hit up those people again to be like, hey, I did it. And by then it'll have been like a year. Who knows how much, like maybe the executive's been hired and fired, or you don't know. Right. But between my first and second short, I wrote a movie, and we sent it to like 20 producers, and we got like 2 bites. And I started working with this really great producer, and I worked with her for like a year. But then she became the president of Miramax. Wow. Which, good for her, is amazing, and hopefully long term will help me out. But then she had to leave my project, and that's just like how this shit goes. Right. But anyway, sorry, I want to stay focused on your question. There isn't a lot of like, you're sort of saying like harness. Can you? Reiterate?
I guess like just not harness in a way of like, how did you deal with this attention and sort of kind of use that energy that was given, that momentum, that energy that was given to you because of the successful short and everything, and then kind of turn it into something that moved you into another realm, another level of sorts?
I think it's like, I've been at this business for a good long time, and I feel it's very like, it's up and down. So you sort of like enjoy the couple months after where you're getting cool meetings. Yeah. But like there will be a come down where it's like, okay, where's your next thing? Right. So I basically, in those couple months after, created a spreadsheet of like who's everyone I met with so that, when I am ready to show them the script, I can go, I'm going to go out to this person, and you really don't know if they'll even remember you. And then it did just help, like, I haven't directed a TV show or a full movie yet, but it's helped me get various like digital jobs. And, I post to social media about it. So it just reminds people like I'm out here doing this. I like, cut up some little clips and put them on my Instagram so people, see me in this way. I think one of the drawbacks of shorts, at least the way that I do them, is it's a very long, slow process. It's not like people who focus in social media where they're kind of constantly feeding you new content. So I try to like ride the wave of like, look, I made a new thing, but it's also like, it's it runs out at a point and you just keep going.
That's I understand that, and just reaching out to those people that helped you or you've got in contact is what this whole kind of like
industry's about.
Name
dropping.
It's not name dropping, but it's in essence like
name collecting,
putting out an email like how we got you. We just like, hey, like we saw her, we saw your short, we loved it so much, and it's like it'd be so amazing if we could get her. You put out the email, you put out the feeler, and and
you never know.
Back, and you never
totally
know that's what this whole industry is running on.
You shouldn't like count yourself, like people may say no, but like let them reject you, don't like reject yourself. And so many, like I ended up being in this women's commercial directors group. That woman JJ, she started it with this other woman Carlin, who's at Imposter, and so they like every 2 months would have just other women that they knew that were commercial directing meet up, and through that I met this woman Kendall, and she recommended me for that vertical job. So like that's also, I also recently like interviewed to direct this thing for that platform Dropout, and I didn't get it, but I then asked the woman I interviewed with out to coffee because we had some like mutual acquaintances, and she's like, the next thing I'm doing, like it just, it's good to sort of be like, I'm planting seeds. And it's okay if like the opportunity right in front of me didn't work out, because I have faith that like,
that's true. In the future, something might happen.
Okay,
so go ahead.
So we have this thing. You'll be our second guest that ever did this.
Okay, fine.
You take a film roll. Answer the question. And
do we usually put the questions back in, or do we keep them out?
We put them back in.
We put them back in.
I mean,
okay.
These questions are from our audience.
Okay. If you could time travel to the set of any classic movie, which would it be? Well, how do we define classic? Because a couple things are coming to mind. One of the things I'm trying to work on as a filmmaker, because I didn't go to film school, I feel like I have a lot of holes in my knowledge.
Same.
I've, a basic answer that comes to mind is like going to a Hitchcock, set, like Psycho or something, just because it sounds like he was just such a character and such a, innovator. But then also like in the last couple of years, I saw Fatal Attraction, which is obviously much more like 92 or something, but it was so good. So I'd love to see that, What
popped in my mind, Clueless.
Oh, really?
Not. I mean, it's like, do you call that a classic when it was like 90s?
That's a classic.
But
That popped in my mind. I don't know why that would be a fun.
I'm trying to think of something where like I would never get hurt, right? Like it can't be like Lord of the Rings, which would be cool, but then I feel like every day I'm like fighting for my life.
Because of New Zealand and just like.
No, because
well, you're not gonna. No, it's not.
No, isn't like the whole world like?
Oh, you're living in the world?
Yeah, it's
no. I thought it said if you could.
Oh, I see. Okay. I see.
No. Yeah.
If you're living
I'm not trying to get Glenn Close to stalk
see.
me. I'm just saying, what film team do I want to see working?
I just want to go back to high school include. That's a good. What about? So, what would you pick, Sal?
I would do an animation.
Ooh,
okay. Just be in their animation studio,
just watching them. What are you doing?
That's so funny. Because I would like to be on set. Wouldn't that feel a little boring to just be like watching people in voiceover booths and watching?
I guess my thing is like, if they hired me, like that's what I'm thinking. Are we getting hired? Yeah. Are we just there to just watch people?
I mean, the question is ambiguous. If you could time travel to the set of any classic movie, which would it be?
Okay, so you said Clueless, and what was yours?
Fatal
Fatal Attraction, or like a Hitchcock movie, you know?
Matrix. I think that would be the cool one. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you go, whoa.
Keanu Reeves.
Yes.
Keanu?
Oh, yeah.
That's a good one.
There you go.
That's a good one.
That got her all excited. Yeah.
Yeah.
And everything. Oh, I have one more question.
Yeah.
Sorry. I'm a big fan of like comedy. I do stand-up comedy.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yay.
Have you ever done stand-up?
I've done it like once or twice. I really respect it, but I actually at a point was like, I'm either going to start directing or start doing stand-up. And maybe. The thing about stand-up to me was like, it felt very lonely, you know?
Yeah.
But I really respect it. So anyway, what were you?
I was going to ask you because I love like writers' rooms, and I've been watching a lot of the Simpsons commentary, and just like the writers talk about how they come up with ideas. And I'm jealous because I've never been in a writer's room. And I just wanted to ask you, how does it feel to be in a writer's room?
It can be really fun. It can be a mixed bag. You know, my main experiences were SNL and the Goldbergs. And what's fun about it is like you're surrounded by some of the greatest brains. You're like really, you know, and I feel like it made me grow because I was like, wow, look at how this writer handled this thing. That's incredible. I don't love like being in a conference room. You know what I'm saying? One of the things I prefer about directing is like you're on your feet. You're like it really you know, whereas like at the Goldbergs it was like, and SNL, it's like 10 months out of the year, and you're like you're like at a computer in an office building, and so that feels a little like stagnating. And then there's you know, with any writer's room there's going to be politics, so like don't love that. But I think there are some that are really great, and it just, now the landscape has changed so much. Like I haven't been in a writer's room since 2020, partially because there's just, you know, not as many jobs, or they're much shorter term. So
I feel like it's either really amazing or really traumatic.
There's
That's
definitely
the documentaries
some of those
that I see.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
the Nickelodeon ones.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God, yeah.
That seemed so bad, but
That's a terrible writing room.
Very, very
fully
bad. Very
believe it.
bad.
Yeah, that's crazy. We're going to end it like that. Nickelodeon, no,
Wait,
come on, no, you
Okay,
can't.
how come in writers' rooms they don't like zhuzh it up, like the room? Why does it have to be in a conference room? Like, why can't it be somewhere nice?
I guess, I mean, because so many TV shows, it's like produced by a studio like Sony or Warner Brothers or whatever, and that's just like, we have these office buildings.
Right.
You know.
Just go in there and just write us something, and then we'll change it later. Cool.
What are
Awesome.
you working on next?
Let's see. I just want to, you know, I'm waiting to hear from my reps about what they think of this new draft of this feature. So I'm putting that aside for a second. And then these two comedian ladies that I love and have worked with in various capacities, Ryan Asher and Alana Johnston, I really just want to make something for the three of us, like in that YouTube space. We're all like loud, brassy ladies that love to do, you know, characters. So I haven't cracked the idea, but I want something where the three of us are like peas in a pod doing weird characters, you know, in the spirit of like, I think you should leave, or Key and Peele. And so that feels like the next thing.
You should do it as a vertical.
Oh, maybe.
No,
I don't know.
no, you know, the creativity goes down.
Yeah,
Can't do anything with a vertical. You get eyes on it, but you just know it's not worth it.
Yeah.
You'd have a cliffhanger in every minute or two.
I know. So silly. Oh my
Yeah.
God. But yeah, I just want to, it feels very empowering to be like, while I'm waiting on like my own TV show or movie, to just keep making stuff. And I feel like I've like done the festival thing, which is really nice. So I'm not like, I can't be spending $80K every other year. I'm like, I'm done. I'm done.
When you said $40K, it hurt me.
It hurt me at the time.
Yeah.
You know, I'm glad. I mean, those, I know we're like wrapping up, but like the couple of heart attacks I had during the thing, all was like girded by, I'm spending so much money.
Oh yeah, you
Yes.
forgot to go into that.
Yes. I mean, I don't,
You could go just 5 minutes. All right, we don't want to take your time or anything like
yeah.
that. Yeah.
So wait, I'm trying to remember them all. One was 2 weeks before my DP drops out, and I was like, oh, I'm fucked.
Yeah.
Another was that when I was trying to cast the other actress, I sent the script around to various people, including this girl I went to college with, who was like an executive, and she knew some actress I was interested in. And she read the script and she was like, oh, just so you know, we're actually making a movie right now, or like working on the script right now, that's like the same premise. And I was like, and she was like, there's like a French or a Canadian film where the premise is very similar that's already out there. So I don't know if you want to watch that movie. And I was like, this was like, you know, a couple weeks from filming, and I was devastated. I had a day where I was like, well, just shoot me. Like, and then I spoke to my manager, and it's like, everything takes so long to be made. Just keep making it. Yeah. And who knows if what they're working on will ever see the light of day.
Plus, even if they have the same premise, like, it doesn't mean it'll have the same style or same tone.
So you're just, And then I'm trying to think of what the third one might have just been. It was really hard to get this other actress, but finally I like begged, because the actress I had in there initially, she said no because she was pregnant and she was in Canada. And I kept asking different actresses, none of whom I was all that excited about. And finally I just went back to her and I was like, I'll do anything. I'll move the dates. I will, you know, make it, we'll shoot you so that we can't see, you know, below your chest or whatever. And finally she was like, okay. And we made it work. And I remembered, like, wardrobe and the production designer being like, well, are you going to write her pregnancy into it? Like, you have to, right? And I was like, it doesn't make sense to the story, so no. And so, like, you know, I did all the wardrobe, and I went over to her place and we just found blousey outfits, you know, like,
That's awesome. See, like that's what we want to hear. That's what our audience wants to hear.
Yeah. Like the struggles.
Yeah, the struggle of like hiding a
struggles.
Pregnancy. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then being told like 2-3 days before, like, hey, somebody else is making the exact same movie.
You're like,
Are you trying to hurt me right now?
I know. Yeah.
But it turned out amazing.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Everything was worth it.
Thank you.
Please watch Pathological on Omeletto. And where else can they watch it? Do you else have like a YouTube channel?
I have a Vimeo, and I don't even know if I've uploaded there, but the main place is to watch it on YouTube. And then in general, you can like find me on Instagram at Alison Rich 123. Alison is spelled ALISON. But yeah, I don't have like a huge internet presence, but I also have a website, AlisonRich.com.
Amazing.
Go check it out, AlisonRich.com. Alison 123.
123.
Alison 123.
Make a web series. We'd love to help. We love
way.
Shit, man.
We love it.
Yes, absolutely.
PAs, I don't care.
So
anything. We'd love to be a part of it.
Yay.
Thank you so much, Alison, for being here.
Course.
We'll catch you guys later.
Bye.
Good night.